Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story, everyone. The Manhattan commercial building rose, imposing, against the gray October sky, its mirrored windows reflecting the lights of the city that never sleeps. Emma adjusted her purse strap on her shoulder as she crossed the polished marble lobby, her heels echoing in a nervous rhythm that betrayed her anxiety. She shouldn't have been there. She had 1,000 things to sort out before starting her new job on Monday. But Olivia had begged with that desperate voice that only best friends can use without guilt. "Please, Emma, just drop off a flash drive on the 47th floor. I was on my way, but my car broke down, and I have a meeting in 20 minutes on the other side of town. You'd be saving my life." And there she was, doing a favor for her best friend, while her own nerves were doing the samba in her stomach. Sterling and Partners. Tomorrow, that would be her new professional home. The irony of being in the building next door, delivering documents for a competing firm, didn't go unnoticed. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding, and Emma stepped in. Pressing the button for the 47th floor, the mirrors on the sidewalls reflected her image. Impeccable navy blazer, chestnut hair pulled back in an elegant low bun, nude lipstick that highlighted her green eyes. Professional, confident, at least on the outside. It was just as the doors were almost closing that a masculine hand appeared between them, forcing them open again. "Sorry," said a deep voice with an accent that carried sophistication and something more, something that made Emma's stomach do a little flip. The man who entered the elevator was the kind of presence that filled a room effortlessly. Tall, broad shoulders beneath a perfectly tailored black suit, dark hair with some gray streaks at the temples that gave him an irresistibly mature air. But it was his eyes that caught her off guard. Blue like a stormy ocean, intense, that studied her for a second before he pressed the button for the 52nd floor. "Thank you," he murmured, and Emma caught his masculine scent, wood, spices, and something clean that made her senses awaken. Silence stretched between them as the numbers on the display climbed. 15, 20, 25. The tension in the air was palpable, as if an invisible electric current connected their bodies in the confined space. "First day?" he asked, suddenly breaking the silence. Emma turned, surprised. "How do you know?" A smile touched the corners of his mouth, revealing perfect teeth. "You have that energy, nervous, but determined." "It's unmistakable," he said perceptively. She replied, feeling warmth rise up her neck. "Actually, I start tomorrow. Today, I'm just doing a favor for a friend." "Sterling and Partners?" he asked, and something in his eyes changed, became more intense. "How did you?" Emma began. But the elevator lights flickered, and suddenly everything went dark. The elevator stopped abruptly between floors, and the only illumination came from the red emergency light, tinting everything around them with a warm, intimate glow. The silence was broken only by the soft sound of the ventilation system and both their slightly quickened breathing. "Power grid problem," he said calmly, but Emma could sense the tension in his voice. "Happens sometimes in old buildings like this." They were closer now, the darkness forcing them to instinctively move nearer. Emma could feel the heat radiating from his body, the scent of his cologne enveloping her like an invisible caress. "You don't seem worried," she whispered, her voice coming out huskier than she intended. "Should I be?" he asked, taking a step closer. Now she could see the details of his face in the red light. The strong jawline, full lips, the intensity in his eyes that made her heart beat erratically. Emma began. But the words were lost when she realized he was only inches away from her. "What were you saying?" he murmured, his voice low as velvet. The air between them vibrated with an energy Emma had never felt before. It was as if the universe had conspired to create that moment. Two strangers trapped in an elevator under the red emergency light, with the world outside frozen in time. "I was saying that," she began again. But her voice failed when his eyes fixed on her lips. "That?" he pressed, his breath now mingling with hers. "That's when it happened. Without thinking, without planning, without any logic that could explain it. Emma leaned forward at the exact moment he lowered his head. Their lips met in a kiss that was anything but soft or hesitant. It was hunger. It was need. It was as if two souls recognized each other after lifetimes of searching. His hands found her waist, pulling her closer, while her fingers got lost in his dark hair. The kiss deepened, and Emma felt as if she was falling into an abyss of sensations that made her forget where she was, who she was, what she should be doing. When they finally separated, both were breathing heavily. The red light danced on their faces, creating shadows that made the moment even more surreal, more intimate. Emma began, but didn't know how to finish the sentence. "James," he said softly, as if reading her thoughts. "My name is James." "Emma," she replied, her voice still trembling. The elevator lights came back on suddenly, and the machine resumed its ascent with a gentle jolt. Reality invaded the small space like cold water, making both blink and step back slightly, as if awakening from a dream. The display showed 46, 47. "This is my floor," Emma said, her voice sounding strange even to herself. James nodded, but his eyes didn't leave her face. "Emma." The doors opened with the familiar ding, and she stepped out quickly, turning only when she was already in the hallway. "That was," she began. "Unexpected," he completed, and there was something in his eyes that made her heart skip. The doors began closing again, and Emma saw the slow smile that spread across James's face before he disappeared from view. She stood in the hallway for long seconds, her fingers unconsciously touching her lips, still warm from the kiss. Olivia's flash drive weighed in her purse like a reminder of the real world, but her mind was completely lost in what had just happened. A stranger named James, a kiss that made her forget her own name, and the disturbing feeling that her life had just taken a completely different turn from what she'd planned. As she walked toward the reception desk to make the delivery, one question echoed in her mind. How could a 5-minute encounter in an elevator feel like the beginning of everything? Monday arrived with the weight of new beginnings and the familiar anxiety that comes with first days. Emma woke up 2 hours earlier than necessary, changed clothes 3 times, and redid her makeup twice, desperately trying to erase Friday's memories from her mind. But it was useless. With every blink, she saw those stormy blue eyes. With every deep breath, she felt the ghost of that masculine cologne. With every touch to her lips, she relived the intensity of that kiss under the red light. "Focus, Emma," she murmured to herself in the bathroom mirror. "It was just a moment. You'll probably never see him again." The Sterling and Partners building was even more imposing in the morning light. 32 floors of glass and steel that housed one of Manhattan's most prestigious law firms. Emma adjusted her leather briefcase as she crossed the black marble lobby, her heels echoing with more confidence than she felt. The reception area on the 28th floor was a spectacle of understated elegance, dark wood furniture, contemporary artwork on the walls, and a breathtaking view of the city through floor-to-ceiling windows. Clara, the receptionist, a middle-aged woman with a warm smile, greeted her. "You must be Emma. Welcome to the Sterling family," she said, extending her hand. "Everyone's excited to meet you. Your references are impressive." "Thank you. I'm very excited to start," Emma replied, feeling some of the tension dissolve. "I'll take you to meet the team," Clara said, guiding her through elegant corridors. "We have a small meeting at 9 to introduce our new lawyer and also our new legal director." Emma's heart did a little jump. "New director?" "Yes. Mr. Sterling's son finally agreed to take the position. He's been working in London for the past 5 years, but decided to come home. He's a brilliant lawyer. They say he has an exceptional legal mind. They passed a series of offices with glass doors where lawyers were already working intensely, even though it was only 8:00 the morning. Emma waved to some colleagues who looked up, receiving encouraging smiles in return. "This is the main conference room," Clara said, opening double-polished wood doors. "The meeting will be here in a few minutes." The room was impressive. A mahogany table long enough to seat 20 people, Italian leather chairs, and an entire wall of windows offering a panoramic view of Manhattan. Emma chose a seat in the middle of the table, far enough from the head to not seem presumptuous, but not so far as to appear insecure. Other lawyers began arriving. Isabella, a sharp-looking Latina woman with a competitive smile, sat beside her. "So, you're the famous Emma Thompson," she said, extending her hand. "I've heard a lot about you. Harvard Law." Experience in international corporate law, impressive. Thank you. I'm eager to contribute to the team, Emma replied. I hope you're prepared for the pace, Isabella continued, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of curiosity and challenge. Sterling isn't a place for the faint of heart. Before Emma could respond, the door opened, and Mr. Sterling entered. An imposing man in his early 60s, perfectly styled gray hair, and a suit that probably cost more than many people's monthly salary. Good morning, everyone. His voice filled the room with natural authority. Today is a special day for our firm. Not only do we have the pleasure of welcoming Emma Thompson, who will be joining our international corporate law department. Emma smiled and waved slightly, feeling all eyes turn to her, but we also have the honor of finally introducing my son, who will assume the position of legal director after years of convincing me that New York isn't as good as London. Polite laughter echoed through the room as Mr. Sterling headed to the door. James, come in and meet your new team. Emma's world stopped. The conversations around the table became a distant hum. Her heart raced so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. Her hands became cold and clammy at the same time. James entered the room with the same magnetic presence that had filled that elevator on Friday. Perfectly tailored navy suit, the same strong jawline, and the same blue eyes that now found hers across the table, with an expression of shock mirroring exactly what she felt. Everyone, this is my son. James Sterling, Mr. Sterling continued, oblivious to the electric tension that had settled in the room. James, these are the lawyers who will be working directly with you. James recovered first, his professional expression sliding over the shock like a well-rehearsed mask. It's a pleasure to meet all of you, he said, his voice controlled, but Emma detected the slight hoarseness she remembered so well. His eyes moved around the table, greeting each person with a nod until they reached her. For a moment that felt like an eternity, they stared at each other. Emma saw the recognition, the surprise, and something more, something that made her stomach flip. And you must be Emma Thompson, he said, extending his hand. I've heard a lot about your qualifications. Emma stood on legs that felt like they didn't belong to her and extended her hand. When his fingers touched hers, it was as if an electric current ran through her entire arm. For a second, he squeezed her hand a little tighter, a little longer than appropriate. Mr. Sterling, she managed to say, her voice surprisingly steady. It's an honor to work under your leadership. I'm sure we'll work very well together, he replied. And there was something in his eyes that made the words sound like both a promise and a threat. James will be reviewing all ongoing cases and implementing new strategies. Mr. Sterling continued, I expect everyone to cooperate fully and share their knowledge. While the meeting continued with discussions about policies and procedures, Emma could barely concentrate. Her mind was a whirlwind of confused thoughts. The man she had kissed with desperate passion in an elevator on Friday was now her boss. Not just her boss, but the owner's son. Isabella, beside her, whispered, God, he's even more handsome in person. Too bad he's our boss, right? Emma could only nod, trying to appear casual, while inside she felt like she was in freefall. When the meeting ended, everyone began getting up and leaving. James approached her chair as she gathered her papers with slightly trembling hands. Miss Thompson, his voice was low, just for her. I'd like to see you in my office in an hour. We have a lot to discuss about your integration into the team. Emma looked up, meeting those blue eyes that had haunted her dreams. Of course, Mr. Sterling, I'll be there. He walked away, but not before whispering so low that only she could hear. 1 hour. Emma. And this time, the doors won't open so easily. As he left the room, Emma stood there, her heart beating erratically. The man from the elevator was now her boss. The kiss that should have been forgotten now stood between them like an incendiary secret, and in 1 hour they would be alone again. The weeks that followed were a careful dance between desire and professionalism, every exchanged glance loaded with meaning, every professional conversation echoing with subtexts that only they understood. Emma discovered that working under James's supervision was simultaneously the most stimulating and torturous experience of her career. During the day, they maintained an impeccable facade. James was the demanding but fair director, and Emma, the dedicated and competent lawyer. In meetings, their legal opinions complemented each other with a harmony that impressed colleagues, but which was born from a connection much deeper than anyone could imagine. Miss Thompson's interpretation of the Carter versus Peterson precedent is brilliant, James said during a Tuesday meeting, his eyes meeting hers for a second longer than would be appropriate. This approach could revolutionize our strategy for similar cases. Isabella, sitting across the table, watched with growing interest. You two really work well together. It's like you read each other's minds. Emma felt heat rise up her neck, but kept her voice steady. Mr. Sterling has a strategic vision that makes understanding the objectives easier. Modesty, James replied, and there was something in his tone that made her stomach flip. Your ability to anticipate case needs is exceptional. It was Clara who inadvertently created the first secret communication system between them. On Thursday, she placed a report on Emma's desk with a yellow sticky note. Mr. Sterling needs to review. Urgent. On Friday, Emma found another sticky note, this time with James's unmistakable handwriting. Need to discuss Peterson case details. File in my office at 6 p.m. J. When Emma arrived at his office at 6, the floor was practically empty. Golden late afternoon light streamed through the floor to ceiling windows, creating golden patterns on the Persian rug. James stood before the window, hands in his pockets, contemplating the city view. You came, he said without turning around. You knew I would, she replied, closing the door behind her. He turned slowly, and Emma saw in his eyes the same intensity she had felt in the elevator weeks ago. Emma, we need to talk about what's happening between us. Nothing's happening, she lied, but her voice trembled slightly. We are professional colleagues. Are we? He asked, taking a step toward her. Then why does my heart race every time you enter the room? Why do I lose concentration when you speak in meetings? Why do I dream about you every night since that Friday? Emma felt her legs grow weak. James, we can't. You're my boss. It's unethical. It could ruin everything for both of us. I know, he whispered, now just a meter away from her. Believe me, I know all the reasons why this is a terrible idea, but I can't stop thinking about you. Neither can I, she admitted quietly, and saw his eyes ignite. They stood there, staring at each other, the air between them vibrating with unresolved tension. It was James who broke first. Closing the distance between them in 2 quick steps, his hands found her face, thumbs tracing her cheeks. This is crazy, he murmured. Complete madness, she agreed, but her hands were already on his suit lapels. The kiss was inevitable, a collision of repressed desire and weeks of accumulated tension. This time, there was no red emergency light, just the golden sunset light that enveloped them like a blessing. When they separated, both were breathing heavily. This can't happen here, she said, even as her fingers refused to let go of his jacket. I know, he replied, his forehead touching hers, but I can't stay away from you. That's how the secret meetings began. Coded messages on sticky notes that talked about case reviews and strategic discussions that were actually invitations for after-hours encounters. Emma learned that James always stayed late on Thursdays, and he discovered that she usually worked later when she had important projects. The following Thursday, she received a sticky note. Wilson case needs urgent review. Law Library. International Precedent Section. 7 p.m. J. The law library on the 30th floor was a maze of tall shelves and silent corridors, almost always deserted after 6:00 the evening. Emma found him among the international law sections, leafing through a volume of jurisprudence as if he were actually researching. Find anything interesting? She asked, keeping her voice low. Very interesting, he replied, closing the book and approaching. You look beautiful today, James, she began. But he was already kissing her, gently pressing her against the shelf of leather-bound books. I spent the entire week thinking about you, he murmured against her lips, about how you smile when you're concentrating, about how your eyes light up when you have a brilliant idea. This is getting dangerous, she whispered, but made no move to pull away. I know, he agreed, kissing her neck, but I can't stop. They began meeting twice a week, late dinners at small restaurants in the village where no one from the firm knew them. Sunday walks in Central Park, pretending casual encounters, carefully worded text messages that seemed professional but carried secret meanings. Thompson case meeting postponed until tomorrow meant I miss you. Peterson client documents need review meant I can't stop thinking about you. Next week's strategy needs discussion meant I love you. During the day at the office, they were the embodiment of professionalism, but Emma began to notice small signs that their connection was becoming visible. The way James always grabbed the last cup of coffee when she was in the kitchen. How he always found a reason to pass by her office. How she always knew when he was looking at her, even when she wasn't looking. You two work very well together, Clara commented one afternoon, organizing papers on Emma's desk. It's rare to see such natural, professional harmony. We're just compatible in terms of work style, Emma replied, trying to sound casual. Clara smiled knowingly. Is that what you young people call it these days? Emma felt the blood drain from her face. Clara, I don't know what you mean. Relax, dear. Clara chuckled softly. Just an observation. But be careful. Offices are small places, and people love to talk. That night, Emma received a message from James. Need to discuss new confidentiality policies. Meet me in the parking garage in 10 minutes. When she arrived at the underground parking garage, he was waiting beside his black BMW. Clara suspects, she said without preamble. I know, he replied, running his hands through his hair. Isabella also made a comment today about our professional chemistry. This is getting too risky. Emma, he approached, taking her hands. I don't care about the risk. But you should, she said, though she made no move to pull away. Your career, your family, the company, none of that matters if I can't have you, he said intensely. These past months have been the best of my life. Not because I came back to New York or took the position at the company, because I found you. Emma felt her heart race. James, I love you, he said, the words echoing in the empty parking garage. I know it's complicated. I know it's risky, but I love you, Emma. Before she could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed through the parking garage. They quickly stepped apart, pretending a professional conversation as another lawyer passed on his way to his car. When they were alone again, Emma looked into his eyes and saw everything she felt reflected there. Love, desire, fear, and the terrifying certainty that there was no going back. I love you too, she whispered. And in that moment, both knew they had crossed a line from which they could never return. The idea came on a rainy Thursday in November, when Manhattan was wrapped in fog, and the office felt particularly suffocating. James watched Emma through his office glass, seeing her work with that intense concentration that made him fall in love with her a little more each day. 3 months of secret meetings had intensified their feelings, to a point where it was becoming unsustainable to maintain only stolen encounters in parking garages and deserted libraries. He needed real time with her. Time away from Clara's curious glances, from Isabella's perceptive comments, away from the constant tension of hiding what he felt. He needed to wake up beside her, see her relaxed face in the morning, talk about dreams and fears without rush or fear of interruption. On Friday, Emma received an email that made her heart race. Miss Thompson, I need you to accompany me to a weekend meeting with potential clients in Vermont. Departure Friday at 4 p.m. Return Sunday night. Please confirm your availability. J. Sterling, Legal Director. She reread the message 3 times before fully understanding. Vermont, an entire weekend away from everything and everyone. Her hands trembled slightly as she typed her response. Mr. Sterling, I confirm availability for the Vermont meeting. I'll be ready at 4 p.m. E. Thompson, at 4:00 the afternoon. Emma was in the lobby with a small travel bag, her heart beating like a drum. James appeared wearing dark jeans and a navy cashmere sweater that brought out his eyes. Seeing him like this, away from the office's formal environment, made her realize how much she had missed simply being with him. Ready for our meeting? He asked, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Ready, she replied, and there was a promise in that word that went far beyond work. The 3-hour drive to Vermont was a revelation. Away from the office walls, they talked like never before. About childhood, abandoned dreams, secret fears. James told her about his years in London, about how he always felt pressured to follow in his father's footsteps, about the loneliness of living a life that others expected of him. And you? He asked, as they drove through golden autumn landscapes. What did little Emma dream of being when she grew up? A writer, she admitted, surprising herself with how easily the confession came. I wanted to write love stories that made people believe in happy endings. And what happened? Life happened. Practicality, financial security, family expectations. She paused. And you? What was James's dream before becoming the sterling heir? Architect, he said without hesitation. I wanted to design houses where families would be happy, places that would tell stories through their lines and spaces. There's still time, she said softly. Maybe, he replied, taking her hand, maybe we can discover our dreams together. The inn James had chosen was a dream from a postcard. A wooden stone construction nestled among snow-covered mountains, with smoke gracefully rising from the chimney. The room was intimate and cozy, with a stone fireplace, a king-size bed covered in white comforters, and a window that offered a view of a frozen lake. James, Emma whispered, standing in the doorway. It's beautiful, like you, he said. Closing the door behind them, they dined at the inn's small restaurant, an isolated table by the window where they could see the snow beginning to fall. Candlelight danced between them, creating an intimacy that seemed to wrap them in their own private world. You know what's funny, Emma said, playing with the ring on her finger. I never thought I could feel so complete with someone. Complete? James repeated, his intense eyes fixed on her face. Like all the pieces of me that I didn't know were missing suddenly fell into place. She stopped, blushing. That must sound ridiculous. No, he said, reaching for her hand across the table. It sounds like exactly what I feel. Too. Back in the room, they stood facing each other, suddenly aware that they were truly alone, without rush, without fear of being discovered. The tension between them was different now, no longer furtive or desperate, but deep and full of promises. James lit the fireplace while Emma watched from the window as the snow fell more intensely. The flames soon began to dance, filling the room with golden light and warmth. Come here, he said softly. She approached, and he pulled her into his arms, kissing her with a tenderness that made her melt. This time, there was no urgency, just the deep need to be completely one with each other. They settled on the rug in front of the fireplace. She nestled in his arms, watching the flames dance on the walls. Emma, James said, his voice rough with emotion, I need to tell you something. She turned to face him, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes. I've never felt this before, he continued. Never knew it was possible to love someone like this. Like you're the air I breathe. Like nothing else in the world makes sense without you. Emma felt tears form in her eyes. James, I love you, he said, as if the words were torn from the depths of his soul. I love you completely, desperately, in a way that scares me and completes me at the same time. I love you, too, she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. I love you beyond what I thought it was possible to love someone. They kissed in front of the fireplace, and it was different from all previous kisses. There was no desperation or rush, just the deep certainty that they belonged to each other. Saturday dawned with sun shining on fresh snow. They walked hand in hand along icy trails, laughed like children making snow angels, shared hot chocolate in a small cabin in the middle of the mountains. I could stay like this forever, Emma said, watching James try to make a perfect snowball. Who says we can't? He replied, throwing the snowball that hit her shoulder. She laughed, grabbing handfuls of snow for retaliation, and soon they were running through the snowy field, laughing until they were breathless. That night, sitting again in front of the fireplace, James took her hands in his. Emma, I know our situation is complicated. I know there are obstacles, risks, people who might not understand, but I want to face all of that with you. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't want to hide anymore. Not from ourselves, not from our feelings. We'll find a way to make this work. Emma looked into his eyes and saw her own determination reflected there. Together, he confirmed, kissing her forehead. Whatever happens. When Sunday came, both knew they were returning to New York as different people. They were no longer two individuals fighting against an inconvenient attraction. They were two people deeply in love, ready to face anything the world put in their path. But neither could imagine that the test of their determination would come much sooner than they expected. The Monday following the Vermont weekend brought a sense of renewal for Emma. She arrived at the office with a smile she couldn't completely hide, her hair still carrying the soft scent of the perfume James had bought her at a small shop in town. Every glance exchanged with him during morning meetings was loaded with intimate memories and promises whispered in front of the fireplace. It was as if the world had gained more vivid colors. Even Isabella commented on her special glow while they reviewed contracts in the smaller conference room. You look different, Isabella said, studying Emma's face with curiosity. more radiant. Vermont was good for you. It was productive, Emma replied, trying to keep her voice neutral, but feeling heat rise up her neck. Ah, yes, the famous weekend meeting. Isabella laughed. James came back with different energy, too. You must have closed a very good deal. Before Emma could respond, Clara appeared in the doorway with a strange expression on her face. Emma, Mr. Sterling would like to see you in his office. Now, there was something in Clara's tone that made Emma's stomach contract. It wasn't the usual tone of the boss wants to talk to you. It was more tense, more formal. Of course, Emma said, gathering her papers. Anything specific? Clara just shook her head, but her eyes carried a mixture of concern and pity. Mr. Sterling's office was on the executive floor, an imposing space with a panoramic view of Manhattan and furniture that cost more than most people's annual salary. Emma knocked on the polished mahogany door and heard the deep voice inviting her to enter. Mr. Sterling sat behind his executive desk, hands intertwined, his face a mask of professional seriousness, but there was something in his eyes that made Emma's blood freeze. Sit down, Miss Thompson, he said, gesturing to the leather chair in front of the desk. Emma sat, trying to maintain composure, but feeling as if she were about to face a firing squad. Mr. Sterling, if this is about the Peterson case, I can explain the strategy. It's not about the Peterson case, he interrupted, his voice cutting. It's about you and my son. Emma's world stopped. Every muscle in her body tensed, and she felt as if the air had been sucked out of the office. Sir, Mr. Sterling turned his computer monitor so she could see. On the screen was a black and white video, clearly from a security camera. Emma immediately recognized it. It was the elevator in the building where she had delivered Olivia's flash drive. The elevator where it all began. Her heart stopped completely when she saw two figures on the screen. Herself and James, weeks ago, under the red emergency light. The video captured everything. The growing tension, the approach, the passionate kiss that had changed her life. I received this by email this morning, Mr. Snyder, Sterling said, his voice icy, from an anonymous sender. Imagine my surprise to discover that my newest lawyer and my son apparently already knew each other before she was hired. Emma couldn't speak. Her throat had closed completely, and she felt as if she were falling into an endless abyss. Are you going to explain to me what exactly is happening here, Mr. Sterling continued? Because from my perspective, this looks like a serious violation of professional ethics. Did you lie in your interview? Did you omit relevant information about your connection with my son? Emma tried to form words, but her mind was in total panic. Because if you think you can use a personal connection with James to advance your career, or if you imagine you can manipulate the Sterling family situation for your own ends, that's not it. Emma finally exploded, finding her voice. It wasn't planned. I didn't even know who he was. So, you admit there's something between you two? Before Emma could respond, the office door burst open. James entered like a hurricane, his face a mixture of anger and determination. Dad, we need to talk, he said, not even looking at Emma initially. James, you can see I'm in the middle of an important meeting with the woman I love, James said firmly, finally looking at Emma with an expression that mixed apologies and determination. And if you have a problem with that, you should be discussing it with me, not with her. Mr. Sterling slowly stood up, his face turning red. What did you just say? I said I love Emma Thompson, James repeated, moving to stand beside her chair. And before you start with accusations of unethical behavior or manipulation, let me clarify the facts. Emma looked at James with a mixture of terror and admiration. He was literally putting himself between her and his father's wrath. What you see in that video happened weeks before Emma was hired, James continued, his voice steady. It was a completely chance encounter. She was doing a favor for a friend. I was returning from a meeting. We got stuck in the elevator due to an electrical failure. And you decided to get to know each other better? Mr. Sterling asked sarcastically. We decided to be human, James replied. Yes, there was immediate attraction. Yes, we kissed, but neither of us knew about the professional connection that would exist later. And when we found out, James looked at Emma, and she saw all the love he felt for her reflected in his eyes. We tried to keep our distance. We tried to be just professional, but we couldn't. Because, he continued, turning to his father. When you find the person you love, when you find someone who completes you in a way you didn't even know was possible, you don't just give up. The silence in the office was deafening. Mr. Sterling looked between James and Emma, his expression unreadable. You're telling me, he said slowly, that you compromised this company's integrity, put our reputation at risk for an office romance. I'm telling you I fell in love, James said simply, and that Emma is the best lawyer this company has ever had. Her work speaks for itself. And any insinuation that she got this job through personal connections is not only false, but insulting. Mr. Sterling sat heavily in his chair, running his hands over his face. And now, he asked, what do you two intend to do? Because someone out there knows about you two, someone who decided to share this information with me, and if it reached me, it can reach others. James took Emma's hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. Now, he said, we stop hiding. Emma felt her heart race. They were really doing this. They were really coming clean about everything in front of James's father, facing the possibility of losing everything. But when she looked into James's eyes, she saw the same determination she had seen in front of the fireplace in Vermont, and she knew that whatever happened, they would face it together. The only question that remained was who had sent that video and what else did they plan to do. The decision was made that same afternoon after hours of tense discussions in Mr. Sterling's office. The family patriarch, after recovering from the initial shock, had shown a business wisdom that Emma hadn't expected. Instead of firing someone or creating a bigger scandal, he opted for controlled transparency. If you're going to own this, he had said, adjusting his tie with a resigned sigh, then we're going to do it the right way. No whispers in the hallways or speculation. A general meeting, everything out in the open. And we established the ground rules. On Wednesday morning, all Sterling and Partners employees received an urgent email. Mandatory general meeting, main auditorium, 10A02, M. Management. The buzz started immediately. General meetings only happened for important announcements, major acquisitions, structural changes, or crises that needed to be addressed. Isabella appeared in Emma's office with eyes gleaming with curiosity. Do you have any idea what this is? She asked, perching on the edge of the desk. Clara said she's never seen Mr. Sterling so contemplative. Emma tried to maintain a neutral expression, but felt her stomach churning. I have no idea. Isabella studied her. You look nervous. And where's James? Haven't seen him since Monday. He was dealing with family matters. Emma lied, feeling the weight of each word. What Isabella didn't know was that James and Emma had spent the past 2 days rehearsing exactly what they would say. They knew they would have only one chance to control the narrative, to transform what could be a devastating scandal into something the company could accept and respect. At 10 sharp, the company auditorium was packed. All 127 Sterling and Partners employees were present. From senior lawyers to the newest interns, the air vibrated with speculation and nervousness. Mr. Sterling took the stage with his usual imposing presence, but Emma noticed a tension in his shoulders that wasn't there before. Behind him, James waited, impeccably dressed in a dark blue suit, but with an expression that mixed determination and vulnerability. Good morning, everyone, Mr. Sterling began, his voice echoing through the silent auditorium. Thank you for attending this last-minute meeting. We have an unusual situation to address today. Low murmurs rippled through the audience. Emma, sitting in the third row next to Isabella, felt her heart beating so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. As you know, values like integrity, transparency, and professional ethics are the pillars of this company. Mr. Sterling continued, when situations arise that might compromise these values, we believe in facing them head-on. Clara, in the front row, was practically on the edge of her seat. Other employees leaned forward, trying to catch every nuance of the speech. Therefore, Mr. Two-Fro, Sterling said, making a dramatic pause, I'm going to turn this over to my son James, who has something important to share with all of you. The silence that followed was so thick, it seemed physical. James stepped up to the microphone, his hands visibly trembling slightly, but his voice came out steady and clear. Thank you, Dad, and thank you all for being here. He paused, his eyes scanning the audience until they found Emma's. For a moment, the world shrank to just the two of them. I'm here today to share something personal that, due to circumstances, has become a professional matter that deserves transparency. Isabella whispered, "What's happening?" So low that only Emma heard. "A few months ago," James continued, "I met a person who completely changed my life. Someone who made me rediscover not only who I am as a man, but also inspired me to be a better leader, a better son, and a better person." The murmurs increased. Some people began looking around, trying to guess who he was talking about. "That person," James said, his voice gaining strength, "is my colleague, lawyer, and the woman I love, Emma Thompson." The auditorium exploded. Audible gasps, muffled exclamations, chairs creaking as people turned to look for Emma in the audience. Isabella nearly fell off her chair, her mouth forming a perfect O of shock. Emma felt all eyes turned to her. Her face burned, but she kept her head high, finding strength in James's eyes. "I know this may be surprising," James continued, raising his hand to calm the buzz. "And I know it raises legitimate questions about professional ethics and power dynamics." "Well, no kidding," someone whispered in the row behind, loud enough to be heard. "That's why," James said, ignoring the interruption, "I want to be completely transparent about how this happened. Emma and I met weeks before she was hired. It was a chance encounter, completely unrelated to this company. Neither of us knew about the professional connection that would exist." Clara nodded knowingly, as if puzzle pieces were finally falling into place. "When we found out," James continued, "we tried to maintain professional distance, but sometimes the heart doesn't follow corporate logic." A nervous laugh rippled through part of the audience. "I want to make absolutely clear," he said, his voice becoming firmer, "that Emma Thompson got this job based purely on her exceptional merit. She's one of the most brilliant legal minds I've ever met, and any suggestion otherwise is not only false, but insulting." Emma felt tears form in her eyes. The love and pride in James's voice moved her deeply. "Our relationship doesn't compromise our ability to work professionally," James continued, "but we understand it creates a situation that needs to be carefully managed. Mr. Sterling stepped up to the microphone again. "That's why we've established some guidelines. First, Emma will report directly to me on matters involving conflicts of interest. Second, all of Emma's performance evaluations will be conducted by an independent panel. Third, we maintain a policy of absolute professionalism during work hours. And fourth," James added, a small smile touching his lips, "if anyone has a problem with our situation, they can come talk to me directly." The auditorium fell silent for a moment. Then, surprisingly, Clara began to applaud. Slowly, others joined in until the entire auditorium was clapping. Isabella turned to Emma with wide eyes. "Girl, you hit the jackpot. How did you keep this secret?" "It wasn't easy," Emma admitted, her voice still trembling with emotion. "Questions?" Mr. Sterling asked when the applause died down. Daniel, a senior lawyer, raised his hand. "Does this affect the command structure? Hierarchical issues?" "Good question, Mr. Sterling replied. "For now, the structure remains the same with the safeguards I mentioned." "What if you break up?" someone asked anonymously from the back. James looked directly at Emma. "We're not going to break up," he said simply. The confidence in his voice made Emma's heart race. When the meeting ended, Emma was surrounded by colleagues. Most were genuinely happy, some curious, others clearly shocked. But as the minutes passed, she realized the general reaction was much more positive than she had feared. "So that's what was happening," Clara said, hugging her. "I knew there was something. You two practically radiated chemistry." Isabella shook her head, still in a state of shock. "And here I was thinking you were being discreet about some casual romance. Girl, you caught the boss." But as the initial excitement faded, one question remained in Emma's mind. Who had sent that video? And now that everything was out in the open, what other moves would this mysterious person make? 3 months had passed since the big company announcement, and life had found a new rhythm. Emma and James's relationship, now public, had become part of Sterling and Partners' culture. They were respected professionally and admired personally, proving day after day that love and professional competence could coexist harmoniously. It was a Friday in March, when the mystery finally unraveled in a way neither of them could have predicted. Emma was leaving the office late, her arms loaded with cases to review over the weekend, when she decided to stop by the building where it all began. Olivia had forgotten some important documents in her office, and asked Emma to pick them up, an irony that didn't go unnoticed, considering it was a similar favor that had changed her life forever. The building lobby was almost empty at 7:00 the evening, lit only by security lights and the soft glow of the reception desk. Sarah, the night receptionist, was at her usual desk, typing on her computer with a concentrated expression. "Hi, Sarah," Emma greeted, approaching the desk. "I came to pick up some documents for Olivia Peterson from the 47th floor." Sarah looked up, and Emma noticed something strange in her expression. There was a tension there, a bitterness she hadn't noticed before. "Oh, of course," Sarah said, her voice slightly harsh. "The famous Emma Thompson, the woman who got everything." Emma paused, surprised by the tone. "Excuse me?" Nothing, Sarah said quickly, turning her attention back to the computer. "It's just that you must be very happy. Got the dream job. The dream man. Must be nice to be you." There was something in the way she said "dream man" that made an alarm go off in Emma's mind. "Sarah," Emma said slowly, "do you know James Sterling?" Sarah's face turned red instantly, and she avoided Emma's gaze. "Everyone knows the Sterlings. It's an important family." "No, I meant personally." The silence that followed was charged with tension. Sarah stopped typing, her hands trembling slightly over the keyboard. "He used to work in this building," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper, "before going to London. Frequent meetings with Carter and Associates on the 52nd floor." Emma felt her heart race. "And you two knew each other." "He was kind," Sarah continued, as if the words were being pulled from her. "Always said good morning when he passed the reception desk. Smiled genuinely. Not like the other executives who barely see you." Understanding began to form in Emma's mind, like pieces of a dark puzzle falling into place. "Sarah," she said gently, "you were the one who sent the elevator video to Mr. Sterling, weren't you?" Sarah closed her eyes for a long moment, and when she opened them, they were filled with tears. "I didn't want to," she whispered, "but when I saw you two in that elevator, when I saw how he looked at you," her hands were visibly shaking now. "I've worked here for 8 years, Emma. 8 years watching James pass by this reception desk 2-3 times a week. 8 years. Building fantasies about what it would be like if he truly noticed me." Emma felt a mixture of compassion and shock. "Sarah, you don't understand," Sarah continued, tears now flowing freely down her face. "Being invisible is a pain that eats away at you from the inside. Every day, people pass by me like I'm part of the furniture. But he was always different, always kind." She stood up from her chair, walking to the window that faced the busy street. "When he went to London, I really thought he might miss me. That maybe when he came back, he would finally see me as something more than just the receptionist. And then," Sarah continued, her voice gaining a note of bitterness, "he came back, and on the first day, he walked past reception with you. And the way he looked it was like you were the only person in the world. Sarah, I swear I didn't know who he was that day." "I know." Sarah laughed bitterly. "That made it all worse. You weren't even trying. You didn't even know him. And still, in 5 minutes, you got all the attention from him that I had wanted for years." She turned, facing Emma with eyes red from crying. "When I saw the security camera video, when I saw you two kissing, I lost my mind. I thought if I showed it to his father, if I created a scandal, maybe he would realize you weren't good for him, that you were just another opportunist. But that didn't happen," Emma said gently. "No," Sarah whispered. "It only made him love you more. It only proved he was capable of fighting for you. And I realized that never in my entire life would anyone love me like that." The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of traffic outside and Sarah's irregular breathing. "Sarah," Emma said, approaching slowly, "I understand the pain of feeling invisible more than you imagine." "How could you understand?" Sarah asked, her voice rough. "You have everything. You think it was always like this?" Emma asked softly. "You think I grew up feeling special? I spent most of my life thinking I wasn't enough, smart enough, pretty enough, interesting enough." Sarah looked at her with surprise. "The difference," Emma continued, "is that I learned my worth doesn't come from other people's validation. It comes from within, from knowing who I am, regardless of who sees me or doesn't see me." "It's easy to say when you have James Sterling loving you," Sarah replied, but her voice had lost some of its bitterness. "James doesn't complete me, Sarah. He complements me. There's a difference." I was already complete when I met him. That's why it worked. Sarah sat heavily in her chair, suddenly looking much older. I ruined everything, didn't I? She asked. My job, my reputation, everything. Emma thought for a moment, then surprised herself with her next words. No. Sarah looked at her, confused. You made a mistake, Emma said. A mistake driven by pain and loneliness, but that doesn't define who you are. You're not going to sue me? Not going to tell your boyfriend? Building security? Emma shook her head. But I have one condition. Sarah waited, tense. You're going to seek help, therapy, support groups. Something to help you deal with these feelings of invisibility in a healthy way. Sarah nodded vigorously, tears of relief now rolling down her face. And Sarah, Emma added, heading toward the door, you're not invisible, not to the people who really matter, but you need to learn to see yourself first. As she left the building, Emma felt strangely at peace. The mystery had finally been solved, but more importantly, she had found a way to transform hurt into healing, anger into compassion. When she told James later that night, he was silent for a long time. You forgave her, he said finally, admiration in his voice. I forgave myself, Emma corrected, for all the times I felt invisible, inadequate. Sarah just reminded me how far we've come. James pulled her into his arms, kissing the top of her head. One more reason to love you even more, he murmured. And so, the last obstacle from their past was finally put to rest, not with anger or revenge, but with the transformative power of understanding and forgiveness. 6 months after the incident with Sarah, life had settled into a sweet and familiar routine. Emma and James had moved into an incredible apartment on the Upper East Side with huge windows that offered views of Central Park and a kitchen where they spent Sundays preparing dinners for two. Their relationship had become an example at the company. Professional at work, passionate at home. James had been strangely agitated for the past 2 weeks, but Emma attributed it to the complex case they were working on together, an international merger process that required long hours and meticulous attention to detail. She didn't notice how he constantly checked his phone or how he and Clara whispered conversations that stopped abruptly when she appeared. It was a rainy Thursday in October when James appeared in her office with a strange expression on his face. I need you to come with me, he said without his usual detailed explanation. Now? Emma looked at the pile of documents on her desk. James, I have to finish these contracts before. Now, he repeated, but there was something in his eyes that made her stop. Nervousness, anticipation. Please, Emma, it's important. She saved her work and grabbed her purse, curious about the sudden urgency. James guided her through the office, but instead of heading to the main elevator, he led her in the opposite direction. Where are we going? She asked, but he just smiled mysteriously. They left the building and walked 2 blocks to a familiar building, the same one where it all began. Emma stopped abruptly on the sidewalk. James, what are we doing here? Trust, he said simply, extending his hand to her. Do you trust me? Of course I trust you, she replied. But her heart began to race for reasons she couldn't explain. The lobby was exactly as she remembered. Polished marble, soft lights, and Sarah behind the reception desk. When she saw them, Sarah smiled genuinely, a smile Emma had learned to recognize as real during the conversations they'd had over the past few weeks. Good luck, Sarah whispered as they passed her, and Emma saw tears of happiness in her eyes. Sarah knows what's happening? Emma asked, but James was already leading her toward the elevators. When the doors opened, Emma immediately recognized it. It was the same elevator, not just the same model, but the exact same elevator where their lives had intertwined almost a year ago. James, she began, but he had already pressed the button for the top floor. Remember the first time we were here? He asked, his voice softer than usual. Like it was yesterday, she replied, looking around the space that had become so significant in their lives. But why the lights flickered? The elevator stopped abruptly between floors. The red emergency light came on, bathing everything in the same intimate, warm light that Emma remembered so vividly. James, she exclaimed. But when she turned to him, she saw he was smiling calmly. What? How? This is intentional. Maybe, he said, and there was mischief in his eyes that made her heart race even more. You planned this? You made the elevator stop on purpose? Let's say I have some contacts in the maintenance department. he admitted, taking a step closer to her, "and that I wanted to recreate the exact moment where my life changed forever." Emma felt tears form in her eyes. "James, you know what I'm about to do, don't you?" he asked softly. And that's when she saw it. He had a small, dark blue velvet box in his hands. The world stopped completely. "Oh my God," she whispered, her hands flying to cover her mouth. James knelt on the elevator floor, exactly where they had kissed for the first time, under the same red light that had witnessed the beginning of everything. "Emma Thompson," he said, his voice trembling slightly with emotion. "When I entered this elevator almost a year ago, I was lost. I was living a life that others expected of me, following a path I had never truly chosen." He opened the box, revealing the most beautiful ring Emma had ever seen. A classic solitaire that captured and reflected the red emergency light like small dancing flames. "And then you entered my life," he continued. "Literally, and suddenly, everything made sense. Every decision I had made, every path I had followed, brought me to that moment. To you." Tears were flowing freely down Emma's face. "Now, you taught me that loving isn't just finding someone who completes you, but finding someone who inspires you to be the best version of yourself. You made me want to be the man who deserves your love." "James," she whispered, her voice broken with emotion. "Emma, my love, my partner, my best friend," he said, holding the ring with one hand and taking her hand with the other. "Will you marry me? Will you get into all the wrong elevators of life with me, if it means we'll be together?" For a moment that seemed like an eternity, Emma couldn't speak. She was completely overwhelmed by the perfection of the moment, by the thoughtfulness of the gesture, by the depth of love she saw in his eyes. "Yes," she finally managed to say, her voice little more than a whisper. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times. Yes." James slipped the ring onto her finger with hands trembling from happiness and relief. It was a perfect fit, as if it had been made specifically for her, which she realized it probably had been. They kissed there on the elevator floor under the red emergency light, and it was as if they were reliving that first kiss, but with all the depth and certainty that true love brings. When they separated, both laughing and crying at the same time, James pressed a button on his phone. Immediately, the elevator's normal lights returned, and the machine resumed its ascent. "You really planned every detail," Emma said, admiring the ring that now sparkled on her hand. "Every second," he confirmed, kissing her forehead. "I wanted it to be perfect." The elevator reached the top floor, and when the doors opened, Emma almost fainted from surprise. The entire hallway was decorated with gold and red balloons. Rose petals formed a path to a room where she could see twinkling lights, and standing there, waiting with huge smiles, were all her colleagues from Sterling and Partners, her family, friends. Even Olivia was there, holding a bouquet of flowers. "Surprise!" everyone shouted when she appeared, and Emma realized that James had planned not just the proposal, but a complete engagement party. Clara approached with tears in her eyes. "Honey, we couldn't keep it a secret. We're so happy for you." Isabella appeared beside her, practically bouncing with excitement. "Show us the ring! Show us the ring!" As Emma extended her hand, hearing gasps of admiration and feeling hugs and congratulatory kisses, she looked at James. He stood a little apart, watching her with an expression of pure adoration. "How did you manage to organize all this?" she asked when she finally managed to reach him. "Love," he said, pulling her into his arms. "When you want to spend the rest of your life with someone, there's no obstacle too big to overcome." And there, surrounded by all the people they loved, Emma knew she had found not just her great love, but her partner for all the adventures yet to come. The elevator where it all began had become the stage where their forever officially started. The wedding took place on a golden spring morning in Central Park, under an archway of white and pink flowers that looked like something out of a fairy tale. Emma walked down the improvised aisle between the chairs, wearing the dress of her dreams, a classic French lace design that elegantly accentuated every curve, while James waited for her at the altar with tears of happiness in his eyes. "Do you take this woman to be your lawful wife?" the judge asked, and James's answer echoed clear and firm. "I do, forever and always." When they finally kissed as husband and wife, the applause from the 150 guests mixed with the sound of birds singing in the trees, as if even nature was celebrating their union. Now, 8 months later, Emma Sterling, A name that still made her smile every time she heard it was sitting in her new office on the 30th floor of Sterling and Partners, a promotion she had earned based purely on her exceptional work. The golden nameplate on the door read, Emma Sterling, International Law Legal Coordinator. And she felt a wave of pride every time she passed by it. Mrs. Sterling. Clara appeared in the doorway with a coffee tray and a warm smile. Meeting in 5 minutes in the conference room. Your husband is waiting. Emma laughed. Even after months of marriage, Clara insisted on joking about the fact that she worked with her own husband. Thank you, Clara. And you can stop calling me Mrs. You've known me longer than he has. Never. Clara replied with a wink. You're corporate royalty now. The meeting was about the company's expansion into the Asian market, a project that Emma led with James as strategic consultant. They had developed a perfect system. During work hours, they were professional colleagues who respected each other. After 6, they were passionate husband and wife. Mrs. Sterling, James said formally when she entered the room, but his eyes sparkled with the private love that only she recognized. Your analyses on Korean regulations were brilliant. Thank you, Mr. Sterling, she replied in the same professional tone, but feeling the familiar warmth rise up her neck. Isabella, who had become one of Emma's best friends, rolled her eyes. You two are ridiculous. Everyone knows you practically devour each other with your eyes. Professionalism. Isabella, James said, with a restrained smile, that's what keeps this company running. Sure, Daniel added with a laugh, and that's why you always stay late on the same nights. The ripple of laughter that followed was affectionate, not malicious. Over the past months, the couple had become something of an office mascot. Living proof that it was possible to balance love and professional ambition. After the meeting, Emma was organizing her papers when James approached, discreetly checking if they were alone. Mrs. Coordinator, he murmured, stealing a quick kiss. How about dinner at Le Bernard tonight to celebrate the Korean contract? She pretended to consider. Depends. Is Mr. Director paying? Always. He laughed, kissing her forehead. I love you, Mrs. Sterling. I love you too, she replied. And even after all these months, the words still made her feel like she was floating. That night at the restaurant, they were talking about the company's future when James took her hand across the table. Emma, he said, his voice taking on a more serious tone. I have something to tell you. Her heart raced. What happened? Dad is thinking about retiring earlier than we planned. He wants to spend more time with Mom, travel, enjoy life. Emma processed the information. And that means, James paused, that he wants me to take over as CEO of the company and for you to be my Vice President of International Operations. Emma almost knocked over her wine glass. James, that's incredible. But are you sure? Leading a company together, that's a big step. I'm sure, he said, squeezing her hand. In these months working with you, I've seen how you transform everything you touch. You're not just my wife, Emma. You're my partner, in every sense. And what will people say about nepotism? About me getting the position because I'm married to you? James smiled. Let them talk. Anyone who works with us knows you deserve every recognition you receive. And if someone doesn't know, well, that's their problem, not ours. They toasted right there in the middle of the restaurant to the new challenges that awaited them. A few weeks later, when the official announcement was made at the company, the reaction was universally positive. Even the most senior lawyers who had initially been skeptical about the relationship now openly admired the couple's professional dynamic. You're inspiring, Daniel said during the celebration party at the office. You show that it's possible to have it all. Love, success, mutual respect. Clara approached with tears in her eyes. I'm so proud of you both. It's like watching a fairy tale unfold in real life. Later that night at home, Emma and James were cuddling on the couch, watching the rain beat against the apartment windows. Do you think we're trying too hard? She asked, nestled against his chest. Marriage, company, all this pressure to be the perfect couple? James kissed the top of her head. There's no such thing as a perfect couple, love. There are couples who choose to work together, grow together, face challenges side by side, and that's what we are. That's what we choose to be every day, he replied. When I wake up in the morning and see you beside me, when I see you shine in a meeting, when we disagree about some strategy and find a solution together, when you remind me of who I really am when the corporate world tries to make me forget." Emma turned to look at him. "You know what's funny? When I was little, I used to dream about Prince Charming and castles. I never imagined my fairy tale would be built with contracts, board meetings, and Excel spreadsheets." James laughed. "And elevators. Don't forget the elevators." "I could never forget the elevators." She smiled, remembering how it all began. "They're our trademark." Speaking of trademarks, James said with that mischievous tone she had learned to recognize, "What do you think about maybe expanding our family, creating a new generation of Sterlings?" Emma felt her heart race. They had talked about children before, but always as something distant, future. "Are you saying I'm saying I want everything with you, Emma? Company, home, children, adventures, challenges, everything." She kissed him deeply, feeling like her heart might explode with happiness. "Then, let's create our own dynasty," she murmured against his lips. "A dynasty of love, success, and malfunctioning elevators. The best dynasty of all," he agreed. And there, embraced on the couch while the rain sang a soft song against the windows, Emma knew she had found not just her great love, but her partner to build an empire of realized dreams. The future had never seemed so bright, so full of infinite possibilities they would explore together, hand in hand, heart to heart. A year and a half later, CEO Emma Sterling's office was a perfect reflection of her life. Elegant, functional, and filled with personal details that told the story of a woman who had achieved everything without losing her essence. Photos of her and James from travels around the world decorated a shelf alongside professional awards and a small plant he had given her as a gift on her first day as CEO. But the centerpiece of the decoration was a framed picture of the elevator where it all began, accompanied by a golden plaque. Sometimes the right path starts with the wrong elevator. Emma was in her 38th week of pregnancy, her round and prominent belly making her need to sit a little farther from her desk to work comfortably. She had insisted on working until the last possible week, personally supervising the company's successful expansion into 3 new Asian countries. "Mrs. CEO." James appeared in the doorway, using the title with the same playful tone he'd used since she had taken command of the company 6 months ago. "How are the 2 most important women in my life feeling today?" Emma looked up from the report she was reviewing, one hand automatically moving to caress her belly. "Sophia is restless today. I think she inherited your impatience." "My impatience?" James approached, kissing her forehead before kneeling to talk to her belly. "Hello, little princess. Daddy here. Can you give Mommy a break? She's trying to run an empire here." As if responding to her father's voice, the baby gave a strong kick, making Emma wince. "Apparently, she disagrees with your suggestion." Emma laughed. But suddenly, her expression changed. A gentle contraction ran through her abdomen, different from the baby's usual movements. "Emma," James noticed the change immediately. "Everything okay?" "I think so," she said, breathing deeply. "Just a Braxton Hicks contraction. Dr. Carter said they're normal at this stage." But 20 minutes later, when a second contraction came with more intensity, James was calling the obstetrician. "Doctor, this is James Sterling. Emma is having contractions." "Yes, every 20 minutes. "Yes, sir. We're heading to the hospital now." "James," Emma said, trying to get up from her chair. "It's too early. I still have 2 weeks." A third contraction, stronger than the previous ones, interrupted her. "Babies have their own schedules, love," James said, already grabbing the emergency bag they had left in the office for exactly this situation. "Clara," he called, leaving the office. "Yes, Mr. Sterling." Clara appeared immediately, and her eyes widened when she saw Emma holding onto the desk. "Cancel all meetings. We're going to the hospital." "Oh my God, the baby is coming." Clara started running in circles of excitement. Isabella, come here. Sophia is being born." Within minutes, half the office was in an uproar. Isabella appeared with water. Daniel offered his car, and even Mr. Sterling, now officially retired but still frequenting the office, appeared with an anxious grandfather expression. Come on, James said, helping Emma walk slowly. "The car is waiting downstairs." They headed to the main elevator, but when they arrived, there was a sign. "Out of service. Maintenance in progress. You've got to be kidding me, Emma said, another contraction making her grip James's arm. Service elevator, James said quickly, guiding her to the other side of the floor. But when they got there, they discovered it was also under maintenance. Stairs, Clara suggested hesitantly. James looked at his wife, now visibly in labor, and then at the 30 floors they would have to go down. No, he said firmly. Emma, can you wait 5 minutes? I'll fix this. He disappeared down the corridor, and Emma heard his authoritative voice echoing, I don't care if it's scheduled maintenance. My wife is having a baby now. 3 minutes later, the main elevator was working again. How did you? Emma began to ask as they entered. CEO perks, James said with a tense smile. And I may have promised a Christmas bonus to the entire maintenance team. When the elevator doors closed, leaving them momentarily alone, a particularly strong contraction made Emma double over. James, she said, her voice tense. I think she's not going to wait for us to get to the hospital. What do you mean not going to wait? I mean, I feel enormous pressure. And another contraction interrupted her, and this time she had to lean against the elevator wall. James pressed every emergency button he could find. No, Emma said between gasping breaths. Don't stop the elevator. Remember the last time we got stuck in an elevator? Yes. And look what happened, James said, but there was panic and admiration in his voice. Emma, our daughter cannot be born in an elevator. Tell her that. Emma laughed between contractions and suddenly stopped. Her eyes met James's, and both began to laugh. Seriously? James asked. Does our family really have a thing with elevators? Apparently, Emma replied. And despite the pain, there was undeniable magic in the moment. First our first kiss, then your marriage proposal, and now our daughter decided she wants to be born where it all began. James completed, his voice full of admiration. The doors opened on the ground floor, where an ambulance was already waiting. Apparently, Clara had called as soon as they left the office. Just in time, the paramedic said, helping Emma lie down on the stretcher. How are you feeling, ma'am? Like my daughter has a very peculiar sense of humor, Emma replied, squeezing James's hand. During the rush to the hospital, with James holding her hand and whispering words of encouragement, Emma reflected on the journey that had brought them there. From two strangers trapped in an elevator to husband and wife building an empire together, parents about to receive their first daughter. James, she said between contractions, when Sophia grows up and asks how we met, we'll tell her it started with a broken elevator and that sometimes, when you least expect it, the right path is exactly where you never planned to be, he replied, kissing her hand. Sophia Marie Sterling was born at 2:23 p.m. on a sunny Tuesday, weighing 7 pounds and 1 ounce of pure perfection. When they placed her in Emma's arms for the first time, she looked into those little blue eyes, exactly like her father's, and felt like her heart might explode with love. Hello, little princess, James whispered, gently touching Sophia's tiny hand. Welcome to the world. You almost got born in the place where Mommy and Daddy fell in love. 6 months later, Emma was back at work, but now with a crib in the corner of her office, where Sophia slept peacefully during meetings. The company had become even more successful, and they had established a parental leave program that became a model for other companies. You know what I'm going to tell Sophia when she grows up? Emma said one night while rocking her daughter in her arms, and James worked on his laptop beside her on the couch. What? That sometimes the wrong elevator takes you exactly where you need to be, that true love doesn't follow plans or schedules, and that the best stories begin when you least expect them. James closed his laptop and moved closer, wrapping his wife and daughter in his arms. And that, he added softly, no matter how many broken elevators we encounter in life, we'll always face them together. Sophia slept peacefully between them, a small symbol of all the dreams that had come true, all the adventures yet to come, and all the infinite possibilities that true love can create. Outside, Manhattan's lights sparkled like promises in the night sky, and somewhere in the city, other couples were discovering that sometimes fate has a peculiar sense of humor, and that the best beginnings happen in the most unexpected places. And so, Emma discovered that sometimes the best destinations aren't found on the maps we plan, but in the unexpected detours that the heart leads us to take. She had entered that elevator as an anxious young lawyer and emerged as a woman who knew that true love doesn't follow scripts. It creates its own. Because maybe, in the end, we're all looking for that wrong elevator that takes us exactly where we were always meant to be.